You won't believe what a top Federal Reserve official is saying about what they're ready to do to help the markets. I'll give you a hint. It's QE. And a publicly traded company buys over 80,000 Solana for their treasury reserve strategy. This is interesting. I'll give you all the details. Let's get into it. Hey everybody, welcome into the Thinking Crypto podcast, your home for cryptocurrency news and interviews. I'm your host, Tony Edward. On your way in, please hit that subscribe button as well as the thumbs up button and leave a comment below. If you're listening on a podcast platform such as Spotify or Apple, please leave a 5-star rating and review. Folks, we got to start with some very big news coming out from a top Federal Reserve official. Here's the headline. Top Fed official says the Federal Reserve is ready to help stabilize the market if needed. See the narrative for quantitative easing building here, folks. This is incredibly bullish. So it's being reported by the Financial Times. In fact, the name of the official is Susan Collins. She's the head of the Boston Fed. Here's a quote. She says, the Fed has the tools to address concerns about market functioning or liquidity should they arise. And folks, we know there's pain being felt across the markets and across the global markets, in fact, not just in the United States, with the tariff wars that are taking place, and the bond market and all these things may need some rescue. So I don't know what the exact catalyst will be. Sometimes the Fed shows up when things break. They may wait for something to break, and that could happen very soon. We saw just a couple years ago in 2023, when we had the regional banking crisis, the Fed stepped in, but in a different way. They did a backdoor injection of liquidity. So they may not call it quantitative easing this time around, but you know they're going to go back to this. We've been talking about it for the past 3 years, the Fed's path to returning to QE. First, they started quantitative tightening and raising rates in 2022. Then they paused rate hikes. Then they started cutting rates. And just a month ago, Jerome Powell signaled the ramping down of QT, right? They cut back about 80% of what they were doing on the QT side. And I told you guys, QE, they're going to go back to printing money. It's just a matter of time. This is the natural progression we've seen historically. And I've been writing about it in my newsletter, talking about it ad nauseum on the podcast. And I keep repeating myself on these things because I'm trying to help you guys understand what the hell is happening in this market. And I know sometimes it may be hard for folks to understand initially. So I try to reiterate and be as detailed as possible here so that you understand the foundational layer as to why assets prices go up, and that is global liquidity. Global liquidity is driven from the money debasement, the printing that they do with the currency. And that is why we follow global liquidity, because assets are correlated to global liquidity, guys. And it's not just the Fed, it's central banks around the globe. So here you have it, folks. The narrative being put out there for the return of the money printer. And of course, Congress recently asked for $6 trillion because they're raising the debt ceiling, right? How are they going to pay for it? As I've said before, is the money going to fall out of the skies? They don't have enough tax revenue to cover it, right? We're running at a deficit. They're going to have to print. So what does this mean? Markets will rip, because global liquidity right now is rising. The DXY is collapsing, folks. It's below 100. Look at how far we've dropped. These are conditions, global liquidity rising, DXY crashing, that are conducive to higher prices and the bull market continuing. I believe we are still in a bull market. There hasn't been an invalidation. As I said over the past couple of days, with Trump announcing the pause of the tariffs for 90 days, that we need to see Bitcoin and the stock market get above the 200-day moving average. Because when we are comfortably above there, it is a bull market. When we're below it, we're knocking at the bear market door. But we are seeing higher highs and higher lows forming on the chart. Look at Bitcoin. Look at the S&P 500, higher highs, higher lows. NASDAQ, same thing. So I like what I'm seeing here, but we need to let the market show us the strength and prove to us this is indeed the reversal. So I'm not calling home or shouting from the hills, oh yeah, look, the next bullish rally is here. I'm not doing that. I'm cautious right now because the market can always fake us out before we have the true reversal. But we got to get above this 200-day moving average. And I think that will be good. But guys, the Fed, huge signal here. Huge, huge. Do you realize what this means, right? The only thing is, what will break? What will be the catalyst? Or could the Fed say, this thing is such a macro problem, the tariffs, and there are so many countries involved that we already have a strong narrative. People are already feeling the pain. And an example of that would be US consumer confidence falls to a 45-year low. So you have the fear out there, the confidence of the consumers down. This could be enough for them to step in. And then you look at even the prediction markets like Polymarket, people believe that Bitcoin's top is in, the crypto market top is in. So there's fear, extreme fear, and people are like, this thing is over. That's it, it's done. So it's fascinating how this plays out. And remember, the market does the opposite of the herd. If the herd is very bullish, be fearful. If the herd is fearful, be bullish. So this is how it all works, guys. And here, Arthur Hayes, who I just had on the podcast, weighed in. He said the following regarding the news of the Fed making these statements, or the Fed official making these statements. And that's a wrap, folks. Buy everything. Essentially saying buy the dip. It's getting ready to rip again because they're going to print. He also highlighted what Jamie Dimon had to say just yesterday, where Dimon expects the treasury market to seize up, followed by Fed intervention. So see the narrative being put out there, the pressure now on the Fed to act. And Arthur says, what Jamie Dimon wants, Jamie Dimon gets. SLR exemption is what we need to send Bitcoin orbital. So the signal is there, folks. Just be patient. I know it's a roller coaster ride, but this is where you need to have the foundational knowledge of what drives markets, and that's global liquidity. And we see the dollar currency index dropping, and there's fear out there in the markets. The herd is fearful. And I think these are conditions that are going to allow the Fed to step in and inject liquidity. Now, one of the things I often share with you guys is what are the whales doing? When you look at the on-chain data for Bitcoin, wallets of 10 or more Bitcoin are continuing to accumulate. They're not dumping. There was a slowdown in late February into early March, and then a plateauing, but then it picked up significantly. The whales, as I wrote in my newsletter just I think last week, the whales know something. Inside money, they know. Smart money, they know. They're more connected than all of us, of course. So clearly, they're not dumping like they did last year after the buy the rumor, sell the news event of the Bitcoin ETF launch. They have been accumulating since, and despite the peaks and valleys and the slowdowns, they're picking up steam. That is another bullish data signal here, not our emotions, but very bullish here. And as I'll say it again, the bull market's not over based on the data, not my emotions, not my feelings, not how I woke up this morning, but the data is telling me bull market is not over. Folks, quick word from our sponsor, and that is Uphold. Uphold is a great platform I've been using since 2018. They make it easy to buy and trade cryptocurrencies, and they just re-added staking to their platform for 19 cryptocurrencies. Overall, they have over 300 plus cryptos on their platform. And folks, they are fully reserved. They don't commingle or lend out your crypto assets, and you can review their transparency report. And I've never had any issues with them. They're safe to use. And they have a great rewards program that you can check out where you can earn up to 5.25% on stablecoins. And part of this reward program, you get 24-hour early access to new tokens that they list. And in order to participate, you have to open the app once per month, deposit $50 once per month, and trade $50 once per month. And the stablecoins they support are Circle's USDC, Ripple's RLUSD, and PayPal's PYUSD. You get 5% on those, and you get 5.25% on USBC. So this is a great program. If you'd like to learn more about Uphold, visit the link in the description. Now, folks, today was the SEC's second crypto task force roundtable, and it was on crypto trading. And of course, you had industry leaders there. And acting chair Mark Ueda hinted at a regulatory sandbox approach for firms, both registered and unregistered, that trade tokenized securities. So Hester Peirce has floated this idea over the years that allow the crypto companies to come in, register, and be able to participate in the sandbox without having to worry about enforcement actions and all these things, but just be transparent with the SEC, and then the SEC can advise you and show you which way you need to go as far as to get things in the right order. So progress being made here. And, as the SEC gives more clarity, you're going to see more adoption, folks, because no one wants to get a lawsuit or Wells notice, right? This is what Gensler was doing, handing out Wells notices and suing people left and right, but he's gone, and it's a new day and things are moving in the right direction. And check this out. The SEC and Binance have jointly asked the court to pause the case against the exchange for another 60 days. If you recall, they did that pause 60 days ago. So they're pushing this out, probably waiting for Paul Atkins to get into office. This week, of course, Paul Atkins was confirmed by the Senate, so he should be going into office very soon. And I believe he's going to work on some of these more complicated cases. And we could see the altcoin ETFs get approved maybe by the end of Q2, if not Q3. So it's great to see the SEC's working on things with the different folks who have been sued and so forth. Just yesterday, I reported to you guys that the SEC and Ripple are finally putting in paperwork on the settlement news that was announced by Ripple. So things are just moving in the right direction, and it's all great for crypto. Now, check this news out. This is fascinating. And it's what I've been telling you guys for a long time, that this thing will start with Bitcoin, but then move to altcoins. Commercial property platform Janover pivots to Solana treasury strategy. Stock surges 1,100% as investors rush in. Folks, we've seen Bitcoin be the standard for treasury strategy. And I was saying that it will start with Bitcoin and it will go to altcoins. So this is a clear example. Some companies have even added Ethereum, but the majority have been Bitcoin. So incredible stuff here. So Janover, a small software company with a new focus on accumulating crypto for its treasury, is surging after completing its first purchase of the Solana token. The company bought $4.6 million of Solana token on Thursday. Earlier this week, Janover announced that it raised $42 million through the private offering of convertible notes and warrants with plans to acquire Sol. Incredible. This is a sign of things to come, folks. And this is why you have to have the macro view. The more companies are going to follow suit, guys. And this, the amount that they bought equates to over 83,000 Solana tokens. Incredible stuff. So bullish. Now, we continue to see states are moving towards setting up Bitcoin reserves. Yesterday, I told you guys about another state that had their version move through the House. Well, Perianne Boring of the Digital Chamber, she lives in Florida, she said Florida joins the Bitcoin reserve race. HB 487 just cleared its first committee with unanimous support, paving the way for Florida to invest state funds in Bitcoin. As a native Floridian, I'm proud to see my home state taking the lead. And she's urging Governor Ron DeSantis to sign the bill into law. Guys, not every state's going to do it right away, but there will be your leaders and they're going to be your laggards. And on the federal level, this has already been given the green light with President Trump, saying this is what the United States should do, creating a Bitcoin reserve. So it makes it easy for the states to get this done and easy for them to sell it to their local representatives and much more. Here's another example of state adoption of crypto. North Carolina bill proposes allowing tax payments using crypto. So I wouldn't necessarily want to pay my taxes in crypto, but there's going to be people who are going to do it. And it makes sense for these states to do it because they get the crypto. They could just hold on to it. It appreciates in value. They sell and they get more money, right? But this is all good for adoption, the on and off ramps being built. Final news here, crypto, of course, is a global asset class, and we have South Korean banks call for relaxed crypto partnership rules. So the banks want to play, and they're saying, hey, make it easy for us. So South Korean banking executives gathered with local lawmakers to request more flexibility in regulations over their collaboration with crypto firms. Woori Bank's leader asked that exchanges be allowed to partner more than one bank under the AML focus mandate. So folks, we continue to see globally the embrace of crypto, the regulations and the guardrails being put into place, and just the clarity for both retail and institutional investors to participate. I hope you're recognizing what's happening here. And I keep emphasizing this news because a lot of people are just focused on price. And they don't understand market cycles. They don't understand the S-curve adoption, right? And I'm trying to spread the knowledge here. So please balance it out. Price is important. Hell, I have skin in the game. I have financial goals. I want Bitcoin to be at 200,000 tomorrow. I want XRP to be at $8 to $10 tomorrow. But I understand investing is a patience game. And you have to understand the adoption that's happening, where we're at in the adoption curve and the cycles as well, and that the macro also plays a factor. That is why I started the podcast talking about it, Because if you are in a massive downtrend with macro uncertainty, no market is going to perform well. That's why everything is down, stock market, crypto, and more. But we will recover. Markets don't go down forever and they don't go up forever. It's all cyclical. Look for higher highs and higher lows on the chart from a macro perspective. So all the puzzle pieces are coming together here. And I'm really hoping you're recognizing that you're really thinking about what's happening here. And the largest institutions in the world, banks, stock exchanges, and different financial institutions are getting involved. It's not the small fish anymore. These are the whales, the 800-pound gorillas in the room. They're here. And if you don't recognize that, I don't know what to say. If you're still sitting on the fence, I don't know what to say. But that's the nature of markets, right? Those who take the time to educate themselves and really put the work in can do well. And that doesn't mean everything's going to be a winner, but you want to be diversified, take your bets, and be patient, have the emotional control, and understand the fundamentals of the market cycles and the macro as well. So, guys, that's the news. Let me know what you think. Leave your thoughts and comments below. Hit the thumbs up button. Guys, a great way you can support me and the podcast is by subscribing to my free email newsletter. It's 100% free. It's on Substack. Also, check out my book on Amazon. It's available in paperback and digital. And check out my new course at mycryptocourse.com. It's a comprehensive course that helps you to understand every aspect of the crypto market. And it features expert commentary where you can hear from founders, CEOs, and institutional investors. And no other course offers that. So go to mycryptocourse.com to learn more. Thank you guys for watching and listening. I appreciate you all, and I'll talk to you all later.